Hello everybody, welcome back to Art and Outdoor Life here with John. So I'm just having fun here and I'm using 100% cotton paper. You see all this yellow? You're gonna watch it disappear literally. Well, it won't disappear, but it will fade very quickly. One thing I have to say, thus far, I started out on paper, on wood pulp paper, which is your basic watercolor paper, the cheapest that you can buy, and I still paint on it. 140-pound paper. I paint on mixed media paper. I paint in sketchbooks. And anyways, so I'm using, this is your 100% cotton paper. And I will say this, okay? This is, only my opinion. Once you start painting on these 100% cotton papers, it takes a little bit of getting used to if you've never done it before. But there's almost that feeling of, I don't want to go back to your 140-pound wood pulp, which your typical regular watercolor paper that you buy in your stores, the budget-friendly ones. You almost don't want to go back. Now, I've had, this same pad here for a while, and I'm not going to mention the brand because, I'm just not into that. I'm sure that any of you guys who paint on 100% cotton paper have your own preferences and that. Well, I've only had this one brand, okay? And I've saved, I don't always paint on it, this pad. But when I do, it's magical. It's always magical for some reason. It absorbs a lot of the paint and the water. It does spread it around. It doesn't stick in like one area. If it's very wet, it doesn't stick in one area. The paint moves, and if you have complementary colors and ideas, they're gonna blend if it's wet. Not saying they won't on on your regular watercolor paper. Anyways, I'm just playing around here. And by the way, I have been doing some acrylics. I haven't done much oil painting lately. And so that's something that, that's deep inside of me that something I really like doing. I just haven't done it in a while. And I will be. I will be putting some videos on here in regards to that. In regards to colors of the paints here, I tried mixing up more of the blue and the red and the browns together. And even a little bit of Payne's Gray. For this painting, I was actually mixing the paints. I love to mix them on the paper. Okay, but in this painting I was mixing them before I put them on the painting for the most part. And as you see, as these watercolors do dry very quickly, you'll see that yellow in the back. The yellow is starting to fade, and it's, it's obvious. It's air drying, and but it's a lot of it has to do with it's cotton paper. The cotton paper absorbs very good, and then depending on how much and how thick you use of your pigments, then that's kind of what it does. It's the ratio. It's the timing. Everything. Okay, so I'm painting a river scene here. I was thinking about a photo I took many years ago from where I live. And so it's from my mind. I wasn't looking at a reference photo. And by the way, I have to say this about reference photos. I'm not a reference photo guy. Okay, it's kind of a violet kind of color I mixed. Anyways, in regards to the reference photo thing, I've never been a reference photo painter. And the main reason is for myself, if I see it, I want to paint it like it is. Like it is. Okay? But I started watching other people paint, and if you're like me, if you see it, it's gotta be that way, or at least close. There are artists out there like Stephen Cronin and many, many others. And I was watching an oil painter earlier. I forgot his name. My apologies. But they take reference photos and they get inspired by them. And they end up creating their own magical paintings. Okay? So I don't want to discourage you from not using a reference photo. In fact, I'm kind of learning from that right now. Reference photos are good. For a long time, I was thinking I don't want to see one because I want to paint it just like I see it. And anyways, I'm just blending colors here. And that right there is a little bit of green, probably a little bit of red, a little bit of Payne's gray in that. The whole idea is to get some kind of dark and, to not make it something straight from a tube. And that's the reason, I was just having fun. I'm experimenting here. I'm experimenting, and, when you do these kind of things, when you're making your own colors, they become your own colors. And, people could try to duplicate it, but it's not the same. And the same thing goes with yourself, I would think. You wouldn't be able to duplicate those colors again. Not the ratios. And the feeling is all in the colors, right? So with a round brush, I was playing around here, and I had a little bit of red, crimson light, and a little bit of brown. Obviously, you could see it looks kind of more of a red than a brown, than a raw umber is what I was actually mixing these with. I wasn't, in this painting, I wasn't thinking about light to dark. Only in the very beginning when I laid down a very light yellow sky, which looked like it was going to be a mess when I first. And over here, I'm using some violet in that. But yeah, in the beginning, as you've seen, I put on, it's not lemon yellow, it's just, it's a lighter, brighter yellow. And that's what I was doing here, just kind of playing around. Now, this is not the focal point of the painting. The focal point is still to come. And some browns and, I mean, we think of all kinds of things. Okay, where's the sun coming from? Where's the light coming from? Where's the shade going to be at? That kind of stuff. Sometimes we don't think about it at all. And, yeah, I'm an overthinker. Sometimes when I paint, I try to get rid of that overthinking part of me. Okay, so again, this is a river scene. I didn't use any white in this. I just didn't want to. But if you've never painted with cotton paper before, if you're, for those of you who are new or those of you who have never painted with cotton paper and have painted on your typical, regular watercolor paint papers, or even mixed media papers, cold press and such, I'm telling you, you buy a pad of cotton paper, and after a few tries, you're going to be fascinated with it. You are. I am. I mean, I'm not speaking for you. I'm speaking for me. But I am completely, it blows me away. I just don't have the money for the budget for as much cotton paper as I would like to have. If that was the case, that's probably all I would be painting on, honestly. Anyways, so I'm mixing colors, just dark colors, browns and reds and blues. I'm not talking about cool colors here. What I'm looking for are, I guess you would say, more neutral colors. Okay, a little bit of Payne's gray in there, a dash of yellow here and there, and even a little bit of green. You blend these and you get grays. You get different shades of gray, and they're neutral. Those are neutral colors. And by now, the paper is dried up pretty much in the riverway there. And when they say dry brush, it's what they mean by dry brush is the paper is dry. Okay, that paper is dry. And I have to say another thing about, I'm just trying to add a little shade in here. Anyways, I'd like to say another thing. there is something to be said in regards to painting with straight from the tube, and that's what I usually always do. Or painting from, a travel kit, a pan, or, something that has wells with dried paint in there, and then you just add a little bit of water to your brush and you grab the paint that way and put it on there. That alone in itself is something very cool, very amazing thing. It just depends on the paints as well. And also, when you're doing it that way, from the wells or whatever, the dry paint, when you're painting from the dry paint. The cool thing about that is you're not using all of, like from a tube, you stick your brush in there, and you're grabbing, even if you put it on the edge of, of the paint poured from your tube on your palette, you're going to be using a lot of that paint. And eventually that paint is going to go pretty quickly because it's wet. It's wet. When you're doing it from, your travel kits, or even if you have paint laying around, if you make spots on your palette of just the main colors that you use, you'll get a lot more out of that paint. And then you can always come back and, go over it. Now, with the cotton paper here, the thing about it is, I'm doing this fast and loose, and my suggestion is, if you want a really good painting, like really detailed painting, let it dry. Paint it, let it dry. Or take a blow dryer to it, or some kind of heat dryer to it, and come back over and do another wash. I've done that, and that's, I've had some really awesome paintings come out like that. I can't put that into a video. Mine are just as you see it. I'm not drying anything off with a blow dryer or anything. And I do have a blow dryer. It blows fuses in my house. But yeah, and if you're just feeling like, if you want to be really spontaneous, go for it wet on wet, like this. And even here in watercolors, they, depending on how much water you have in your paint and everything, they will dry. It will dry within 20 minutes. There will be parts of your painting that will dry. And the paper. Now look at the yellow sky. All of a sudden, it ain't so yellow. It's not so yellow no more. Right? But there's still a brightness to it. So now the sun is hiding somewhere. Maybe it's off in a distance. Maybe it's coming up now. Or maybe it's going down. Anyways, I want to encourage you to paint. If you know somebody who needs, who you think that would benefit from painting, who's never tried it before, encourage them. It's a great coping mechanism, and it's healthy. Wishing you a good, wonderful, and peaceful day, morning and night. Thank you for viewing. I really appreciate it. Sincerely yours, John. So we'll just take a little bit over here, because watercolor does fade. It does fade as it dries. The darker colors don't fade too much. Just depends. Take a little card and see what I can do. This dead tree right here, just kind of